His breath was hot against my neck as his hands moved slowly down my back, tracing every inch of skin that was not supposed to belong to him. The dim lights of the hotel room flickered through the sheer curtains, and the city outside buzzed, unaware of the betrayal taking shape inside. I knew exactly what I was doing. My husband was at home tucking our daughter into bed, probably smiling at a photo of me on his phone. The same phone that had Dylan's number hidden behind a fake contact name. Every kiss that night felt like fire and guilt burning together. I wanted to stop. I did not. And as he whispered my name, my wedding ring pressed coldly against his shoulder. A cruel reminder that I still belonged to another man. Before I go deeper, I just want to say thank you, truly, to every one of you who has subscribed to this channel and helped it grow. Your support means more than you know. And to my new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, I cannot wait for you to hit that button. It is the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Make sure to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I am always eager to hear what you think. Now, let me take you back to where this all began. My name is Ashley Miller, and for most of my adult life, I believed I was a good woman. I was 33, married to a man most women would dream of. Ethan, my husband, was patient, thoughtful, and stable in every way I was not. We had been married for 8 years, living in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside of Dallas, Texas. We had a beautiful daughter named Lily, and a house that looked like a postcard. White porch, green lawn, and neighbors who waved every morning. From the outside, I looked like every other content wife in the neighborhood. But behind that picture-perfect life was a woman who was quietly fading. Ethan was a good man, but somewhere along the years, the spark between us disappeared. He was always busy, always tired, and I could not remember the last time he looked at me with the same hunger he once had. I missed being seen. That longing, that emptiness, is what led me to the gym that morning. It was a Tuesday. I remember it clearly because it was the first time I met Dylan Hayes, the new fitness trainer who had just joined the gym. He was tall, confident, and had the kind of energy that filled a room. I was not looking for attention, at least that is what I told myself. But when his eyes met mine through the mirror, something in me shifted. He smiled, and it was not just a polite trainer's smile. It was the kind that lingers, the kind that says, "I see you." Our first conversation was harmless. He corrected my form on a machine, joked about my stubbornness, and somehow made me laugh in a way Ethan had not in months. I told him I was married. He said that was respectable. But the way he looked at me afterward did not feel respectable at all. I left the gym that day feeling alive, and guilty for feeling alive. Over the next few weeks, I found more reasons to go to the gym. Sometimes I told Ethan I needed me time. Sometimes I said I was meeting my friend Sophie. But the truth was, I just wanted to see Dylan. He was different from Ethan in every possible way, spontaneous, bold, and confident in how he touched the world around him. He flirted without hesitation, and every word he said made me feel like the woman I used to be before marriage, before responsibilities, before routine took over. We started texting. At first, it was about workouts. Then it became about everything else. He asked about my dreams, my frustrations, my marriage. He told me I deserved to be happy, that I was too beautiful to feel unseen. He said everything I had been craving to hear. One evening after a late gym session, it started raining. Hard. Dylan offered to give me a ride home. I should have said no. Every cell in my body told me to say no. But instead, I followed him to his car. We sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the rain blur the world outside. Then he turned to me, his eyes searching mine, and said softly, "You do not have to pretend, Ashley." That was all it took. The next thing I knew, his hand was on my cheek, and my heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The kiss that followed was not gentle. It was desperate. It was years of loneliness spilling out in one reckless moment. I kissed him back like I had been waiting my whole life for it. When it ended, I just stared at him. I should have walked away. But instead, I leaned in again. That was the night I cheated for the first time. I drove home that night with trembling hands. Ethan was asleep on the couch, our daughter's blanket covering his lap. The TV was still on. My heart broke a little at the sight of him. He looked peaceful, loyal, unaware. I stood there for a long time, just watching him, my husband, the man who trusted me completely. I wanted to cry, to confess, to undo what I had done. But instead I tiptoed upstairs, took a shower, and tried to wash the guilt off my skin. It did not work. Yet the next morning, when Dylan texted me, "I cannot stop thinking about you," I replied without hesitation. That was the moment I realized I was in deeper than I thought. Days turned into weeks, and every time Ethan left for work, I found myself slipping into another life. I started dressing differently, spending longer hours at the gym, and hiding my phone like it contained classified secrets. Sophie noticed first. She said I looked happier, that my eyes had life again. I smiled and told her it was because I was taking care of myself. If only she knew what that really meant. But the truth is, I did not feel happy. I felt addicted. Dylan became my escape, the forbidden thrill I could not resist. And Ethan, my loyal husband, became my comfort zone, the man I returned to when the guilt became too heavy. One night, Dylan and I met again in that same hotel. As we lay there, he whispered, "He does not make you feel like this, does he?" I wanted to tell him it was not about that I loved Ethan, that I never meant to become this person. But the truth was, I did not even know who I was anymore. When I came home, Ethan was awake. He smiled and asked if I wanted tea. His kindness pierced through me like a knife. I excused myself, saying I was tired. But as I crawled into bed beside him, the scent of Dylan still lingered on my skin. That night, I stared at the ceiling and realized something painful. I was not loyal, not even close. And yet, my husband still looked at me as if I was the best thing that ever happened to him. I woke up that morning feeling like two women living inside one body. One was the faithful wife who made breakfast for her family, laughed at her husband's jokes, and kissed her daughter goodbye before school. The other was the woman who checked her phone every few minutes, waiting for a message from a man who was not her husband. That morning, both women were me. Ethan smiled as he poured coffee into my mug. "You seem happy lately," he said with a soft grin. I nearly choked on my breath. Happy? If only he knew. I forced a smile and said something casual about sleep and exercise. But deep down his words haunted me. He was seeing a light in me that did not come from him. That light came from Dylan, and it was slowly burning everything else in my life. By that time, my affair with Dylan had turned into something far more dangerous than stolen kisses. We met in hotels, in his car, even once in the back room of the gym after hours. Each encounter left me trembling with desire and drowning in guilt. I told myself I could control it, that I could keep both lives separate, that Ethan would never find out. But the more I lied, the more reckless I became. I started deleting messages, clearing call logs, and silencing notifications. I learned how to hide, how to perform. I would stand in front of the mirror each morning and rehearse my smiles, the ones that looked innocent enough to fool Ethan. The truth was, I had become an actress in my own home. Ethan had no reason to doubt me. He still kissed me goodnight and asked about my day with genuine warmth. But our marriage had become predictable, like a song that played on repeat. We still shared a bed, but our bodies no longer reached for each other the way they once did. I used to blame him for that. I used to think he stopped wanting me. But I knew now, it was not him. It was me. I had drifted too far to feel the same way again. Sometimes, I would watch him sleep beside me and wonder how long I could keep lying. I wanted to stop, I truly did. But the moment Dylan called or texted, my resolve melted. His voice had a pull I could not resist, a dangerous kind of comfort that made me forget who I was supposed to be. At first, Dylan was everything I thought I wanted. He was wild, passionate, and made me feel alive again. But slowly, I started to see another side of him. A side that was controlling and jealous. He hated when I mentioned Ethan, even casually. He wanted more time, more attention, more of me than I could give. "You said your marriage was empty," he once told me. "Then why are you still there?" That question tore through me like a blade. I told him I could not leave Ethan. Not for now, not for her, meaning Lily. Dylan did not understand that. He wanted ownership, not love. And deep down, I began to sense that his interest in me was more about conquest than care. Still I stayed. I stayed because even toxic passion felt better than emotional numbness. Ethan began noticing changes. He never accused me directly, but I could feel his quiet concern in the way he watched me. He asked subtle questions: where I had been, why I came home so late, why I smelled of different perfume. I grew sharper, defensive. I told him he was overthinking, that I was just trying to focus on myself again. But behind my calm smile, panic started to grow. One evening, while I was in the shower, Ethan walked into our bedroom. My phone was on the nightstand. He never went through my things before, but something must have told him to look that night. I came out of the shower and found him sitting on the bed, holding my phone in his hand. My heart nearly stopped. He looked up and said quietly, "Ashley, who is Marissa?" Marissa. That was the fake name I used to hide Dylan's number. My pulse raced as I searched for words that did not exist. "She's a trainer from the gym," I said carefully. "She helps me with my sessions when Dylan is not around." Ethan stared at me for a long time. I could feel his eyes reading every twitch in my face. Then, to my surprise, he nodded slowly and handed my phone back. "All right," he said. "Just wanted to make sure everything's fine." That should have been my moment to stop, to confess, to choose honesty before things went too far. But instead I walked over, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Everything's fine." Everything was not fine. It was only getting worse. 2 weeks later, Dylan convinced me to spend an entire weekend with him. He said he had rented a cabin just outside the city, somewhere private. I told Ethan I was attending a women's wellness retreat with Sophie. He believed me. Why would he not? That weekend was a blur of intensity and escape. Dylan treated me like I was the only woman in the world. But by the second day, something about it began to feel suffocating. He spoke about a future together, about me leaving Ethan, about starting over somewhere new. Every word terrified me. I realized that Dylan loved the version of me that cheated. Not the wife, not the mother, not the real woman with responsibilities. He loved the thrill of the forbidden. And when the thrill faded, I suspected his interest would too. When I returned home from that weekend, Ethan's tone was different. He was quiet, reserved, studying me like I was a puzzle missing pieces. That night, after dinner, he said gently, "You seem distracted lately. Are you sure everything's all right?" I lied again, telling him work stress and sleep were catching up to me. He smiled faintly, kissed my forehead, and went upstairs. I thought the danger had passed, until I noticed my phone light up. It was a message from Dylan. It read, "Miss you already. Last weekend was everything." My stomach dropped. Before I could delete it, Ethan's voice came from the staircase behind me. "Who is that?" My fingers froze over the screen. I turned my mouth dry, my mind scrambling for another lie, but his face said it all. He already knew. He did not yell. He did not throw things. He simply stood there, his eyes full of quiet pain I will never forget. He said my name once, softly, like it hurt to even speak it. Then he walked past me, took his jacket, and stepped out of the house without another word. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. I sat on the couch for hours, staring at my phone, at the message that destroyed everything. My heart raced with panic, guilt, and an emptiness I could not describe. The man who trusted me with his heart had just discovered I had shattered it. And for the first time since it all began, I realized what true loneliness felt like. The night Ethan walked out, the air inside our home changed. It felt colder, heavier, like the walls themselves knew the truth now. I sat there for hours, waiting for him to return, praying he would come back and pretend nothing had happened. But deep down, I knew that kind of mercy was gone. When I finally went upstairs, his pillow was missing. His jacket too. That was when I realized he was not just taking a drive. He was leaving. The next morning, the sound of our daughter's laughter echoed down the hallway. For a second, I almost forgot what had happened. Then I saw Ethan in the kitchen, packing Lily's lunchbox in silence. He looked calm, but his eyes were hollow. "Morning," I whispered. He did not answer. I stood there, watching him, wanting to say something that would erase it all. The lies, the betrayal, the nights spent in another man's arms. But what do you say to someone whose trust you have already burned? When he finally looked at me, his voice was steady but distant. "I know everything, Ashley." Those 4 words froze me in place. He placed his phone on the counter and opened the message thread. It was all there. Every word, every photo, every secret I thought I had deleted. Dylan had sent messages I never saw, and one of them went directly to Ethan when he tried to reach me that night I was at the retreat. It felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. Ethan did not yell. He did not curse. His calmness was worse than anger. He asked one question. How long? My lips trembled. A few months. He nodded slowly, his eyes glistening with tears that refused to fall. And all this time, you came home and looked me in the face. I am sorry, I whispered. The words felt meaningless even as I said them. Sorry. He shook his head. Do you know what kills me, Ashley? It is not the cheating. It is the thought that you made me believe I was enough, while you gave yourself to someone else. His voice cracked on the last few words, and I felt something inside me break completely. He gathered a few clothes into a bag. I tried to stop him, reaching out, begging him to talk. But he gently stepped away. I cannot even look at you right now, he said. Not because I hate you, but because I still love you, and that makes it hurt even more. That sentence cut deeper than any accusation could have. When he walked out, I ran after him, barefoot on the porch, sobbing his name. But he kept walking toward his car without looking back. The sound of the engine fading down the street was the sound of my life falling apart. In my panic, I called Dylan. I needed comfort, distraction, something to quiet the ache. He answered after a few rings, his voice calm, almost indifferent. Ethan knows, I said, crying. He saw everything. There was a long pause. Then he said, maybe it is for the best. For the best, I repeated, disbelief choking me. He sighed. Ashley, I did not plan for this to go that far. I never wanted to ruin your family. You knew what this was. What this was? I repeated, my voice rising. You told me you loved me. People say a lot of things in moments like that, he said quietly. But you knew the risk. And just like that, he ended the call. I tried calling again, but the line went straight to voicemail. By that evening, his number was disconnected. He had vanished, as if the man I threw everything away for had never existed. That night, the house felt empty in a way it never had before. Every room held memories of a man who once adored me. A man who trusted me enough to never look for signs of deceit. I walked through the living room, tracing my fingers along the walls, the furniture, the framed photos of our wedding day. My reflection in the glass looked like a stranger. I had traded love for lust, stability for thrill, truth for a secret that never deserved to be kept. And now, all I had left was silence. Within a week, Ethan moved into a friend's apartment. He told me he needed space, not time, not forgiveness, just distance. I could not blame him. Word eventually spread through our neighborhood. People who once waved now avoided eye contact. Sophie was the only one who came over. When I told her everything, she looked heartbroken. Ashley, she said softly, I warned you he was getting too close. I know, I whispered. But I did not think I would lose everything. You did not just lose Ethan, she said. You lost yourself. And she was right. A month later, Ethan came by to see Lily. He looked healthier, calmer, like a man finally finding peace. We barely spoke. When he was about to leave, he turned to me and said, You do not need to explain anything anymore. I understand now. Understand what? I asked quietly. That sometimes people do not cheat because they stop loving, he said. They cheat because they stop loving themselves. And I hope one day you find your way back to who you were before all this. I wanted to tell him I already lost her. But he was gone before I could speak. Nights are the hardest now. I still sleep on my side of the bed, though there is no one beside me. Sometimes I hear Lily ask when Daddy is coming home. I tell her he loves her, because that is the only truth left that I have not ruined. I see Dylan's face in my mind sometimes, but not with longing anymore. Only disgust. He was not the villain. Neither was Ethan. The villain was me. The woman who wanted everything and ended up with nothing. Looking back, I realized that infidelity does not begin with the body. It begins with a moment, a smile that lasts too long, a text that feels too harmless, a loneliness you try to fill with excitement instead of honesty. And once you cross that line, You never really come back the same. I destroyed my marriage with my own hands. I broke a man who loved me without condition. And now, every morning when I wake up alone, I live with the echo of the one truth that will never change. My husband thought I was loyal, but I was not. And that truth will haunt me forever.